Okay, things are bad now, but they won't always be bad.
Right.
Things are tough now, but there is going to be a victory at the end of this.
You're listening to the Dare to Be Different podcast, a podcast for people who want to live an extraordinary life. On this week's episode, Joe sits down with Jason Tost to talk about how to live your most adventurous life. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Dare to Be Different podcast. My name is Joe Altieri, and I am here with Jason Tost, my co-host today. How are you today, Jason?
I am great. Co-host. Man, I've never been called that. That is that's awesome. Thank you so much for having me here.
Co-host, yeah. So I heard through the grapevine that you were, one of our listeners. That
I'm one of those stats, out there listening to the podcast.
One of the millions that are listening to the Dare to Be
listener,
Different.
First-time guest. So glad to be here.
So the Dare to Be Different podcast is all about living an exceptional life. And we use 5 words, 5 values to really define that exceptional life. And it's adventurous, honest, passionate, healthy, and grateful. And I actually called you out several podcasts ago about being one of the most adventurous people that I had ever we've been friends for a long time.
We have been.
And you are one of the most adventurous people I have in my life and have had in my 40-some-odd years.
I do remember hearing that one, and that's mainly the reason that I listen is to hear more shout-outs. And so I appreciate that one.
Yes. So,
and I was flattered. Yeah, I don't know if I often think of myself in that respect, but it's awesome to hear people perceive you as that. And I think adventure has been something that's kind of defined my life in a way, and I know it's one of your core values here, and I feel like I would share that one with you.
Yeah, and you are the reason that a group of us several years ago got on bikes.
That fateful bike trip.
The fateful bike trip that we biked from Pittsburgh down to
Ohio, I believe.
Ohio, yeah. Overnight. One of the guys actually ordered a pizza to the campsite, which was kind of. It's still adventurous.
Yeah.
But yet...
Getting the pizza delivery boy to find us in the middle of the night in a forest was challenging, for sure.
Yes, it was.
We had someone sleep in a hammock up in a tree. A lot of funny things
Way up
happened
in
on
the
that
hammock,
trip.
too. I forgot about that. That's right. He climbed like 25 feet up in the air to put his hammock. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, but, the way that we define adventure, so, I think adventurous is those types of things. Going camping, going river rafting. And I know you do all of those things.
Yeah.
But more than anything for us, it's just choosing to live every day. Not letting a day pass by where there hasn't been something that is memorable going on. Living a life that involves some risks sometimes, some new experiences, things like that. And like I said, to me, you really encompass that ideal. So how did you get there? Because this isn't new for you. I mean, your wife tells us stories. You went camping on your honeymoon. Like this isn't a new thing. Like you've been this way for a while.
Yeah. And a few years back, I made a little photography book of all the adventures we'd been on, and it was funny seeing them all together and reminding them all the crazy places that I've kind of dragged her along. She has a great spirit of adventure too, I would say.
She does, absolutely.
Yeah, but I mean, I would take it all the way back. I know, you guys choose like a word for the year, and this would be one of the words I would apply to my life. I think back to being, 10 years old, and all I wanted was a big adventure. You and I, we were both born in the '80s. We both raised on, the Goonies and Star Wars and E.T. and these stories of boys having an amazing adventure. And man, that's all that I wanted, at that age.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's that thread's gone through the fabric of my life. Appreciating adventure, looking for, the next one, wanting to be part of something really big like that.
So you, your family, your brothers, because you have
I'm the oldest of 6.
Oldest of 6, so there's an adventure.
Yeah, life was an adventure.
Yeah, having 5 siblings, but your siblings, I mean, you guys go on adventures together. Like this isn't a new thing for you guys, right?
Yeah, I mean, I take it all the way back to high school when we first got that taste of freedom and, hey, Dad, we're going to take the canoe out on the river for a few days. And then it was just us figuring out life, figuring out how to row a canoe, how to, make fire. And so we've persisted on doing that. And there's the annual guys trip where the brothers and we get together and we pick a new adventure every year. Sometimes it's Colorado in the mountains. Sometimes it's on the river. But every time it's exciting and something brand new.
So, the irony of you leaving for a week to go on a guys trip, isn't lost on, my family, because my family, we're all connected because we're a tech family. Like we do cell phones and everybody has the Find My Friends and all that stuff. But you actually don't even answer your phone sometimes. like they're like, Jason, I've been trying you for 3 days. You're like, oh yeah, it's probably dead in my car under the seat somewhere or something like that.
Yeah, I think I've done better recent years, but for a while that was my reputation. I never really adapted well to the idea of like constant contact, and maybe it is because I did appreciate just getting out there and being disconnected for a little bit, and having to find your way without some of those modern conveniences.
So. Tell me about like one of your earlier ones, because I've heard some of the stories. Like there's ones about you killing pigs and stuff. Like tell me about some of the things that you've done through the years, or one maybe a nice memorable one.
Yeah, I don't know. Like if I had really like to chronicle a bunch of things, probably one of the biggest. My brother was in the Peace Corps, and so again, dragging my wife along to a tiny Eastern European country, Moldova, and exploring Russian missile bases and doing all sorts of crazy stuff that, in hindsight, I'm like, wow, I can't believe I made her do that, or I can't believe that she agreed to do some of that stuff. Yeah, and then lots of camping trips where we spent a whole week, crawling through caves in Western PA. Most recently, we did a trip that ended up being a water trip during a flash flood. So every trip is different, and I think what makes them all unified is that there's always something that happens as unexpected. Something we didn't plan for. And I have a friend, and his kind of quote is, adventure begins when the planning ends.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and the idea is like that's when you really start to have to like do some problem solving. That's when the group really finds out how well they're working together, and that's probably one of the common threads throughout all our trips.
So you and I actually consider myself pretty adventurous, but not necessarily great outdoors type of adventure. We have businesses that we start and do those types of things. But. What do you, again, we have completely different ways of showing that adventurous side, but yet we still have this kind of kindred spirit of, I would be deathly afraid to go out in the woods for a week and take a backpack and feel that I would be coming out of it, at all.
I could get you there, Joe. You would do just fine.
Well, exactly. but from the other side, you would look at what I do going, oh, my goodness, like start a business out of something you made in your garage, you'd probably think I'm
terrified.
Crazy. Right?
Yes, absolutely, yeah. So you're right. Adventure kind of shows up in different ways. And yeah, I think sometimes your mind goes to skydiving, goes to bungee jumping, these kind of outdoor extreme things. But man, there's adventure in being a parent.
Sure,
there's
absolutely.
adventure in, a marriage and a business,
moving to a new place, do it like
absolutely
those types of things. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think then, so one of the things that kind of make all those adventures is the idea of how do you adapt to a situation you've never been in, and do you embrace it or do you run away from it? And I think, people with an adventurous spirit, I would count you as that. Don't shy away from experiences that are difficult, scary, potentially failures,
right.
Run towards them. Because that's where the excitement is. That's where the potential for success is.
Yeah, and also, at least my opinion, and I think you share this, that's where life is as well. Even we're recording this as we're in the middle of the Corona scare that's going on.
We're all in an adventure right now.
Yeah, we are. This is all unknown, and there are some people that have just decided to hibernate through this. Mm-hmm. They have pulled the covers up to their neck and they're watching Netflix and they're like, okay, well, whatever. I'm, when everything's done, I will figure this out. And then there's other people that have decided to be somewhat adventurous. There's new businesses that are starting through this because they're finding a need and fulfilling that need. There's different ways, from the business side that we're reaching out. We could very easily, stick our head in a hole and say, hey, talk to us in 2 months, you know. But we're not going to do that. But even from, home life, I know that you and I were chit-chatting a few minutes ago. Like, there's adventures that you guys are doing with you and your kids. It's not like everybody gets to sit there on their Nintendo Switch and, not do anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Just recently we discovered that there's a creek down below our house in the woods. I'm going to go outdoors again. But
sure.
We took the kids down there, and I told them, like, hey, listen, this is your creek. No, it wasn't our creek. I'm not sure who actually owns it.
But in their minds,
I'm like, this is yours. You guys come down here, build dams, do what you want to do. And that's how I grew up. But the idea is like, yeah, there's an opportunity for adventure down here. It's right outside our door, And I think you can expand that to like there is opportunities for adventure even in this moment. Like you said, new opportunities, new ways of doing business. And I think part of that adventure spirit is looking around and looking, where is the adventure right now? Is it right outside my door? And can I be out there doing it?
Right. I remember, was this year where your kids got their new school shoes and like the next day you took them on a quote unquote adventure and like completely destroyed their school shoes and new school clothes and stuff like that?
I've ruined so many pairs of shoes and clothes. I can't keep track of that, Joe. But yeah, and I think, getting messy, not being afraid to do that.
There's mess in the adventure.
There is mess in the adventure. Yeah. And there's struggle and there's suffering sometimes. And I think that's another key aspect of people who are adventurous is that they're not going to, just because something's difficult, sometimes something uncomfortable. I'll be honest, Joe, sleeping on the ground is never comfortable, even for like a seasoned camper,
Right.
But you persist through that discomfort because there's something on the other side. There's a good story. There's a great view. There's a new opportunity,
Right.
And so I think, we're willing to handle some discomfort for what comes after it.
Yeah, I going back to our now famous bike trip, man, my butt hurt after 2 days of biking, whatever that was, 70 miles or whatever we did.
You sit on a bike seat for an hour, it's not so bad. You sit on it for a whole day, and it's a completely different story.
Yeah. We're kind of pulling in. We're doing like the last mile, and there's like a girl on a tricycle with a little bell on it passing us up. Like it was ridiculous how wore out we are. But it was just a trip that I will remember forever, and we'll be talking about it forever.
Yeah.
But I want to have those experiences all the time. And I think our listeners do too. Otherwise they wouldn't be listening to this.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that anybody is subscribed to this podcast that doesn't want to have an exceptional life, because that's what we're all about.
Mm-hmm. Well, I like what you said that we will be talking about this for a long time, and I'm sure we will. And I think that's one of the more powerful parts of adventure for me is that it is such a bonding experience for people.
That's really good. Yep.
You will remember the people that you went through a tough time with, whether it being an outdoor adventure or a business venture or whatever. And so I think it's those moments of shared suffering sometimes, the bike seat, we were all sore at the end of that, but it's something we all experience together. And so that's something that I think adventure really bonds a group. My best friends are the ones that I have shared some really tough times with, Some of them have been out in the woods. Some of them have been in other places. And I think someone who has a spirit of adventure recognizes like, hey, this is something that, wow, it's difficult. And maybe this applies to our current situation too. This is difficult, but in the end, we're going to be closer because of this. Right.
And even going through those adventurous, tough times, you have to have that thought that we're going to come out of this, whether it's you're outside and it's hey, we're all soaking wet and we're cold because the canoe tipped over.
Yeah.
In an hour, we're going to be warm sitting by the fire. Like we're going to come out of it. Yes, it's terrible now, but again, this is life. Like we're going through this, and yeah, we're all shivering and we're looking around going, oh my goodness, we're oh look, Bob's over there. He found an old tarp that,
Yeah.
and now he's, whatever the case may be.
I was on a canoe trip where we were paddling for hours on the Allegheny in the pouring rain. And what saved us, we all got out. We found a small town, went to a laundromat, bunch of guys. We stripped down to our boxers and just dried our clothes in there. But you know what? Like knowing that like, all right, we could get warm. All right, now we can do the next leg. We went back out there and got wet again. But yeah, like even in times like this, you look to the end, and I think part of being adventurous is having an optimistic, outlook on things. Like, okay, things are bad now, but they won't always be bad.
Right.
Things are tough now, but there is going to be a victory at the end of this, and having that perspective.
Yeah, and the victory might not necessarily be life, just using the current situation. Like, it might not be life is the same as it was before. That might not be the victory. It just might be, we came through this, our families are closer, whatever the case may be, but we got through it. We lived that part that was life, and now life is something else.
Yeah. I mean, there's a literary mode called the hero's journey, and a lot of, great works of fiction and movies like have this cycle. I kind of have this stereotype, I can't talk public without mentioning Star Wars. I'm going to do it right now.
Do it. Go for it.
Star Wars is an example of that, where, you have this hero that is called out of an ordinary life, goes through this amazing adventure, and then there's transformation,
Yes.
And so, yeah, you do not end the hero's journey the same way that you started it. And I think, that applies to this as well. We're not Luke Skywalker, but we are in the middle of a journey where we're going to come out transformed, in some way, and this journey will shape us. And I think how you decide to like be part of the story. Are you the hero in your story? And I think if you choose to make that decision, then you can shape your story.
So let's talk about some of the ways that we can be adventurous. There's one that sticks out to me, and I'd heard you talk about this years ago, but you went through like a year of yes, right? It was
a year of yes.
The year of yes. And I actually got a lot of great stuff from listening to you talk about that. Can you explain the year of yes?
So you may have heard the slogan, just say no. I took a different take on it, the idea of just say yes. And as I was one time I was explaining this to my children, and my wife's like, you can't tell them that. That is not good advice. I'm like, well, with some context, it makes more sense. The idea is an opportunity is presented to you, and like, hey, Jason, would you be on a podcast? And my initial reaction is, that seems very stressful. I don't want to be there. But yet I like, you know what? I'm just going to say yes and see where it takes me. And that's kind of like the general philosophy as well. When given an opportunity, whether it's scary, whether it's potentially outside of your comfort zone, I'm gonna just say yes and see where it takes me. And I'll be honest, Joe, saying yes to a lot of stuff has taken me to places that I did not think I would ever be in my life. Physical places in this world, opportunities, responsibilities, and it's amazing just where just saying yes can take you.
Yeah, and I think about a lot of the things that I naturally want to say no to. When I finally say yes, typically they're not as bad as I thought they would be, and there's some good that comes out of them.
Yeah.
So, which is really, if somebody said to me tomorrow, do you want to go skydiving? I've never been skydiving. My inclination would be, nope, I'm good. I'm pretty cool with my feet on the ground. But that yes is going to be, it's going to take me on an adventure that I would never have had before.
Yeah.
And again, that's kind of an extreme, maybe even short-term thing, but things like business, business opportunities, things like that. I think we as humans, and especially humans that have some form of self, what's the word? Where they want to protect themselves, like preservation. That's the word. Yes. Yeah. That was probably really good for the podcast listeners. me stumbling over preservation for 10 minutes, but people with self-preservation, their immediate inclination is to say no. Something new comes up, no.
Yeah.
Hey, let's go to the movies tonight. Nah, I'm good. Let's go do this. Nah, I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why fear exists. That's protected us from tigers and lions. For most of our human history. But there's also something in overcoming that fear. Even walking towards the scary thing. It took me a while, but I feel like I've trained myself that whenever I'm asked to do something and my immediate feeling is apprehension or nervousness, I take that as a cue of, wow, this could be something good.
Right.
All right, don't run away from this. At least consider it, and figure out why is this making you your fight or flight instinct kick in, and decide, hey, maybe that's a sign that this is something that could be really good for me. It took a long time to get to that point, though.
And I'm sure it does. And I think that, people can start small. With just small decisions, when somebody says, hey, let's go for a hike, instead of going, oh, I don't have the right hiking boots or blah, blah, blah. Like, no, just stop making excuses and just go.
Yeah.
And getting into that habit. I think being adventurous, just like the rest of our words, our values, is their habits. Mm-hmm. And we just have to practice them, and then they become bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of value in new life experiences, and I think I try to stress out with my kids, like, hey, all right, you've never tasted this before. No matter what you think, try it, and now you can put that on your list as something you've tried,
Right.
And so the real value, and they'll hear me say this all the time when we're doing something uncomfortable, like, hey, new life experience, and they're like, oh, Dad,
Right.
But I want them to realize, there's so many great things out there to try, and you could really limit yourself in this world. You just close yourself off to, that's not for me. I would never like that. Why not try it?
Yeah, and you had, man, you are like the most prepared co-host that we've ever had. You have like notes here, and you have a quote here that I love. It says, "Value the story over the suffering." I love that, and just using your kids, trying something for the first time. How many kids can say that they've eaten rattlesnake? When I was probably like 10 years old, my grandfather, we were out, camping. He killed a rattlesnake and I ate rattlesnake. And at that point, I never thought, oh, this is some huge adventure.
Yeah.
But here 30 some years ago, I remember that.
Yeah.
I don't remember if I liked it. I probably spit it out. You know what I mean?
But the point is, you experienced it.
I experienced it.
And it's part of your story now.
And it's part of my story. And I think that is so true for everything that we might want to or might not want to try.
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of the story, and that's been another theme that I think's kind of run through my life. And the idea that, we are, at the end of our life, we're going to have a bunch of people that we loved and had relationship with, and we're going to have all the stories we shared with them. And, all these moments of victory and suffering, they're part of that story.
Yep.
And I like this idea of like, hey, if we could realize that we're in the middle of a great story, that totally changes your perspective on whatever you're going through. One time when I was hiking with my brother, we had done about 20 miles in this loop over a few days. We did a bunch of miles, and we ran into a father who had lost their son.
Mm-hmm.
This teenage boy had been out, hadn't come back. He's like, hey, would you guys, help me find my son? And we were dead tired. We're like, absolutely, And
Sure.
so we did another 20 miles on top of that, and it's probably one of the hardest hikes I've ever done. And I remember like just being so exhausted, walking through, just soaking wet, calling this kid's name and feeling pretty down. And my brother turned to me and he said, hey man, you know what? This is gonna be a great story one day. And the idea of like, you know what? He's right. And it totally changed my perspective. Like, I'm in the middle of a great adventure right now. If I recognize that, and at the end we found this kid, we returned him to his father, and it ended up being one of the greatest stories of my life to be part of this experience. But it took my brother reminding me, hey, we are in a story right now, and it's gonna have a good ending, and just recognize that. And I've tried to use that throughout my life now.
I got this visual as you were talking of the book of our lives, being put in front of us, and to your point, we're writing a chapter right now.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a chapter that says coronavirus, chapter 14, coronavirus, and there's going to be some people that are like, watch Netflix. Chapter 15, or any of those situations that we go through. And I really love that visual because that's going to stick with me. I hope all of our listeners, have that same visual because we only have so many chapters.
That's right.
That's it. And if we waste one of those chapters on whatever, sitting on Facebook, like chapter 15, went on Facebook, told everybody I was safe, whatever, that's, man, what a terrible chapter in your life. So, man, I really, really like that.
Yeah, like I had this idea a while back. I don't know if you heard of the concept of lucid dreaming. It's the idea is you're in the middle of a dream and you realize you're in a dream, and all of a sudden you take control of it, and you are now you can fly, you can do whatever,
Right.
I kind of like the idea of lucid living, the idea of like realizing that you're in the middle of something great. All right, and once you realize that, then you take control of it. You experience it at a greater depth. The idea of being aware of what the amazing story is that you're in right now, whether it is the story of being a father or the story of being a business owner or the story of being on a river, recognizing what story you're in right now totally changes, your experience of it, I think.
The other thing that jumps out at me is I think a lot of people, and me included, think that there's things in our lives that are dictated to us. Now, again, going through this thing where governments are, shutting us down and things like that, outside of that, but just through normal life, there's no one that says that we have to live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It might be the easiest path. It might be the best path, but there isn't somebody saying, Joe, you and your family have to live in Pittsburgh. I could go live in a trailer in the middle of Arizona if that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, but how easy is it to limit like the paths before you? You're right. There are infinite paths before us at every moment. But sometimes we do see it as, well, there's this one track, and I just need to ride this one to the end of my life. Wow, like how mind-opening is when you realize like there are possibilities of things that I can't even think of right now, but they're there.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we've all probably grew up having somebody tell us you can be anything when you grow up, but most of us don't internalize that and actually think that. Like literally, whether you're 20, 30, 45, you can go back to school. You can change career paths. You can start a business. You can start a podcast. You can literally do whatever you want. It's just, do you decide to do that? And of course, there's consequences that go along with those decisions.
And risks. With an adventure comes risk.
Yep. But you can.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we just need to give ourselves permission to take that step and say a little bit of yes, that year of yes.
Yeah. My wife said something to me that just kind of blew me away. We're both working from home now in this current situation. She's like, we could live anywhere now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, really? She's like, yeah, we could go to the beach and live there for a month. we could. I'm like, wow, I never even thought of that possibility. And it took someone saying like, hey, there are opportunities in front of you that you don't even recognize. I know, it was pretty eye-opening. I'm sure every person listening has a bunch of opportunities that in front of them that they may not even realize either.
Right, absolutely. So the last thing before we wrap up, again, in your amazing notes, you have something that people that are adventurous are not afraid to be different. And I think that's also a key. That, we live in a society that wants us to look like everybody else. And even when we don't, when people are countercultural or something like that, they still look like the group that they're trying to be a part of. Mm-hmm. So, but I think truly adventurous people, they just don't care. Like who cares if the kids' shoes got muddy? You know what I mean? So they don't have the whitest shoes, they have brown shoes, but they had a great adventure. And I don't care what the neighbor thinks that my kids have brown shoes. That's again a stupid thing, but
it's fine. And I think we look around and we take our cues of, are we doing the right thing based on what is everyone else doing? And there's one perspective like, well, if I'm doing something different from everyone else, then I'm on the wrong path, But I think the spirit of adventure is like, if I'm doing something different, maybe I'm onto something,
Right.
No, you may be on the wrong path, but there's also the possibility you may be breaking new ground. You may be blazing a new trail. And so that letting go of that fear of looking different, of being different. Just recently, my friend and I, we built a teepee in the woods and slept in it in January. And we were doing it, and I said to my friend Jake, no one else is doing this right now. No one is cutting down trees and making a teepee. We have beds at home. We have homes. Why,
right.
But it felt good. Like, hey, we're doing something completely different, and it was exciting, And I think embracing that attitude of like, yeah, let's build a teepee and sleep in it. Why
Mm-hmm.
not? Let's be different and see where that takes us.
What's really funny is we celebrate as a society people that do great things, but people can't do great things unless they do something different. Like
right.
we all want to conform, and we celebrate the people that don't conform and accomplish something. But yet, and I think most of us inside, we like to be celebrated. Like we want somebody saying, "Hey, good job. That was amazing." Nobody's writing great books about, people that, went to work from 9 to 5 every day and just did the same old.
Yeah. I mean, there's an opportunity to live a very mundane life, and we all, have the opportunity to do that. But I think there's another chance out there. And it involves looking different. And I think looking different sometimes comes with some social consequences for sure. People saying, hey, that's not going to work out. That's not acceptable. But you're right. It's the people that do that end up, making the new discoveries, finding new things, creating new things. And we celebrate that in culture, but
right.
It's sometimes hard at the very beginning of it.
It really is. And even for me personally, we started, we as an organization, my companies started really putting me out there for the world to.
How did that feel?
It was terribly unnerving. It really was. And I had people in our industry going, "What are you doing? Like you look foolish. Like you're doing crazy videos and doing stuff like that." And I'm like, "Look,
Did that slow you down at any point?
It really didn't. Actually, for me, I'm like, well, apparently I'm doing something right. Like,
okay, yeah.
I'm starting to apparently ruffle some people's feathers. So, maybe I'm on the right path.
That's a sign, yeah.
So, but, how easy is it when someone says, why are you doing that? You look silly. Do you know how old you are? Those type of things where you go, okay, you're right. And then you backtrack and you fall off that. Like, I think that's the time where you double down and keep driving towards whatever you're going to do.
Yeah. I mean, we all at some level crave, acceptance by, people around us. So that's a strong force to overcome sometimes.
It is. Yeah. So, but I know I have faith in all of our listeners that they are going to overcome that and dare to have a different life.
Yeah.
But, well, thank you so much, Jason. Any last thoughts for our listeners before we sign off for this episode?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the idea, again, when I was 10, I wanted this grand adventure, something like I'd seen in the movies. And just the idea that we are all adventurous to some respect. Your adventure is happening right now, and you may not even be aware of it. And I would just encourage all the listeners to take some stock in what is my adventure, and what is the thing that I can run towards and look different and overcome an obstacle and grow together with people. That is out there for all of us. I truly believe the adventure is out there, and it's just a matter of getting off your couch and getting out there and experiencing it.
That's awesome. I don't have anything to add to that, so I think I'm just going to sign off at that
Sounds
point.
Good.
So,
it's been a good time, Joe.
Yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely. Thanks so much for coming. We definitely will have to do this again. It's an adventure, Jason. I'm gonna hold you to being adventurous.
I will say yes.
There you go. So thank you for everyone that is listening. If you know somebody that needs to get a little adventurous, if you need them to get off their couch, forward this podcast to them. Tell them to listen to it. Jason has some amazing things to share. And thank you so much for listening. And we'll see you next week. Thanks.